live every Wednesday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can ask me anything and the conversation is completely open-ended. I do my very best to give consistent quality information each and every week. So thank you for everyone that tunes in, and for everyone watching the replay, thank you. It means a lot that these 1,000 people or so that tune in and watch this replay. If you are watching right now, smash that like button. It means a lot for the algorithm. For 2021, I talked a little bit last week about some of my goals. And for this year, one of them is to hopefully focus on the things that add the most value to my life. And so that means a lot less property management, construction, a lot less bookkeeping, anything that I didn't really like to do, not going to do it anymore. So those are all things that I've committed to in 2021. Another one is physical fitness. If you've been following me on Instagram, at Mike Rosehart is my handle, you'll know that I've been working out 2 times a day for the 75 hard challenge to get in the best physical shape, hopefully, that I've ever been in. And as a 28-year-old, I'm in my prime. Now's the time I really want to explore and see what my body can do physically. So one of the things I've been keeping up with, and it's great. It feels great to be sore everywhere. The pain as I wake up every day, a little bit more sore than the day before. The pain is just a reminder that I'm getting bigger, that I'm getting stronger. And so that's what's been consuming my week, is the 75 hard challenge. If you guys don't know, go check it out. It's a great thing for your mind, your body, everything. So minimum 10 pages of nonfiction. The book I've been reading right now is Money for Nothing by Derek Foster. It's about options trading, a lot of call options trading and stuff like that. Basically, they're just, it's mostly about put options, I believe, but you could do call options too. Just about how you can use options and leverage to basically earn, 5, 6, 7 times the return in many cases, with actually less downside. So if you trade options properly, you can use them to invest in companies you'd want to invest in anyway and make more money. Or you could always speculate too, depending on how you want to use your options trading strategies. But the idea is to get paid to buy stocks you want to own anyway. So anyway, that's something that I've been focused on this week. But 10 pages of nonfiction reading, 2 45-minute workouts. Ideally, one of them is outside each and every day. So I've been doing hikes, I've been doing walks. In the cold, it's been hard, but been managing to do it. I've been doing inside. We have a personal gym in the basement, so we've got the full cage, squat rack, bench press, all that coming. And right now we got the rowing machine going, which is great. Just a whole bunch of great things coming to the personal gym. So that's been awesome, being able to just walk downstairs every day and get a great physical workout. And we have great tunes bumping, and the other people in the house are working on the 75 hard challenge too. And so it's great to have that positive energy as we work towards the same goal, right? So that helps too, to keep motivated. And I've been getting some great results. If you follow on Instagram, you can see some of the growth that I've been having. In only 6 days so far, I've felt extreme amounts of personal growth. The other thing that's really hard about the 75 hard challenge is not only the 10 pages of nonfiction, but the 4 liters of water, the gallon of water a day. That's been a new one that I've been trying out. I've been peeing a ton. So that's been something new that I've been trying to work on the fitness journey. But on the real estate side, I had a deal closing this week that I just assigned the contract to someone. It's a fantastic deal. It's a great opportunity. But it just didn't make sense for me to... I was going to JV with one of my mentees. We're going to take it down and do all the work. But when I run, let's say making $100,000, but having to do a whole bunch of organization and stress and renovations and all of this aggravation, and then a whole bunch of cash burn for a while before we get to a positive cash flow situation, just to make $100,000, when I could make, let's say between 20 and 50,000 doing nothing. It just made the right sense to flip the paper and not take the deal down. Sometimes passing on the deal makes more sense than actually taking the deal down. And that's something that I'm only now realizing with the abundance mindset and with the value of time. And my time is so valuable now that I'll walk away on a more profitable deal if it takes more time. That's the same when I'm investing in businesses, and that's something I'm doing too in 2021. I'm actually engaged right now in the acquisition of 2 potential companies. I can't talk about it, but I'm looking at options there where I can invest in small businesses that are growing. I'm focused on cash flow first. I like growth, but I don't want to pay for growth. No one wants to pay for growth. It hasn't happened yet. It's a maybe. It's a speculation. I like to pay for what's there, what's now, the cash flow. And then the potential is obviously the bonus, and that's where you can lean in and hopefully add some real value. But that's one of the things I'm big on in 2021 is the value of my time and keeping my money working hard for me. So anyway, let's go to the live Q&A and see what you guys are saying. Who will lend against stocks? So Andrew, most of the major banks will lend against stocks. Most of the brokerage accounts will lend on margin if you're buying stocks against your portfolio, if you want to buy more stocks. But most of the banks, when you get over, I think it's over $1 million portfolio with them, if you go move into private banking, Bank of Montreal, TD, Scotiabank, they all have it. I'm with private banking Scotiabank, but they'll basically give you a line of credit for around 70% of your stock portfolio. So if you had $2 million in a stock portfolio, they give you 1.4 million. If you had $1 million, they give you $700,000 line of credit at like prime plus a quarter, something like that. So you can actually lever up your stock portfolio and then use that line of credit to invest in more stocks, or you could take it and private lend it, or you could use it and buy real estate. And so in theory, if you put $1 million in a stock portfolio, boom, you get a $700,000 line of credit, go use that to lever up and buy real estate. You could lever up 20% down, 700 grand gets you $3.5 million in real estate holdings. So you could go take $1 million, if I had $1 million cash right now, put in a stock portfolio, borrow 700,000 back in line of credit, use that to go buy real estate. And so you'd be buying zero down real estate deals because the bank's funding it with a line of credit, and you got a stock portfolio the whole time that's generating you dividend income, etc. and so forth. So I'm a big fan of that strategy. And if you can lever up your stock portfolio, as long as you're buying stuff that is positive cash flow and you can afford to make the debt obligation payments, and they're not going to, if you're doing options trading or margin trading and you're getting really close to your limits, then they might call the loan, and that's high risk. So you don't want to be in those types of situations where you could be burned on an options strategy or something and you can't close and then they force your position into a loss. You don't want to be in that position. But where it can make sense, I think it makes sense to do it. One thing I just realized, my lighting. I'm gonna go plug in my light real quick. 3, 2, 1. Ready? Light. What the heck? There we go. Hey! Hello, friends. Turn it up. Change the mode. Ooh. What kind of mood light are we feeling tonight? I realized I didn't plug that light in today. The little ring light that sits behind my iPhone. So I just plugged that in for you guys. Next, it says, Quentin says, I have about $78,000 to invest. No idea where to start, but I want to buy rentals. What age are you? 22. So it looks like you're wondering where to get started in investing. And it could be that you're not ready yet if you're not sure how to buy a rental property, you probably haven't looked at 100 rental properties yet. You're probably not ready to buy something. And it might make sense just if you want to invest in real estate and you don't want to diversify, which again, I think you should diversify. But let's say you didn't want to diversify and you were super bullish on real estate. One option is to take that $78,000 and buy into a residential REIT, a real estate investment trust. They're publicly traded. You put your $78,000 in there. Most of them are paying like an 8% return, 7-8% return. Plus you're gonna have some appreciation from their real estate portfolio. They manage everything. It's just like, it trades just like a stock on the exchange. So if you put $78,000 in there, you could be looking at, $400 a month in distribution income for free while you're waiting, while you're learning how to buy property yourself. And once you've gone through that, it's fairly liquid. You could sell those REIT shares, relatively quick, depending on which one you get into, right? So it's a great way to park your money for a time. You could show the bank, give proof of down payment, sitting there in those share ownership. It might appreciate over the time you're looking at a new property, but that's a great place to get started, just to park your money and have it sit somewhere, right? So I'm a big fan of that as an option. I think that makes a lot of sense for someone just starting out, because now you're invested in real estate. They'll lever up your money. The REIT is probably levered 2 to 1 or something. They're not hugely levered, maybe 3 to 1. It depends on which REIT you're looking at. Some of them don't have very good financing structures, but at least your money's being levered up. At least it's being put into work for real estate. And I think that's really smart for having your money fight against inflation, right? So that's definitely, from my perspective, let's go to Super Chat. That's the place to start. And then as you get learning, then you can take that $78,000, lever up and go buy a $400,000 property. Hopefully you can double your down payment using a burst strategy. Jamal says, any tips for finding a good accountant? I did a lot of renovations and deferred maintenance, but I want to make sure I can find an accountant that can help me offset my salary taxes. Best 60K salary. Jamal, thank you for the super chat, by the way. It means a lot when you support the channel and it keeps everything going. So that right there is $7 and $7 and something that goes right to me. YouTube takes their 25% or whatever. But thank you so much for that. It does support the channel, keep things moving and the lights on. I want to reinvest more into the channel, into Instagram in 2021. I have a plan to invest potentially between $50,000 and $100,000 into the channel to help grow the following. So stay tuned for that. And I might produce some more content. There may be some cool things coming down the pipeline, but hang on for that stuff. I can't pull off the covers yet. But to answer your question, finding a good accountant, there are plenty of good accountants out there. Not all accountants are created equal, but they're my favorite type of accountant for this type of situation is go to a real estate networking event and talk to different people who have rental properties and find out who their accountants are. And then find out if that accountant that they have specializes in real estate investors. There are, if you just type in probably in Google, real estate investor accountant, you'll probably find some leads right there. You can give some calls and find someone who's a good personality fit. Because anyone can study the tax code, but you have to like the person. You have to be able to sit in a room and have a good conversation. They have to, in my opinion, be someone that's, I like someone that's quick and smart and that's focused on future planning. That's a bunch of value add for me when I look for my accountant. I currently use someone here as local too. I like local, that's a big piece. You don't have to have someone who's local. They could be from Toronto, you could be from London, whatever. But I like someone that's local. My person's a partner. Anyway, so I won't really, if someone wants to message me, I can share who I'm going to be using for both my corporate returns and my personal return this year. But I'm using a larger firm. And one of the reasons for that is I believe that as my net worth grows and as I grow, I'm going to outgrow a small time accountant. And once you start doing more complex transactions, let's say I'm doing some trading in the US, I might be doing some stock trading, some real estate stuff. If that tax partner doesn't have a specialty on whatever that is, like let's say I'm investing in US small business that I invest in and they grow or whatever, and there's tax complications between me owning shares of a US corp and then we go and sell that or whatever. I need to have someone within the firm that they can lean on that's an expert in that specific area. So you pay a little more to be a larger firm, but then if you get audited or something by, let's say, the IRS or the CRA or whatever, then you have a whole team of accountants that each can specialize in a different area because you can't be an expert in all things tax. Like accountants specialize in pigeonhole. Like one guy might be like the stock and options guy. One guy might be like the real estate dude. One guy might be like, all they do is like mining companies, tax, rules, whatever. I just made that up. But there are specific pigeonholes and expertise areas that different accountants stay fresh on, right? And so that's something you want to look for. I look for someone, my own accountant has over a dozen rental properties. That was important to me. I wanted to know that they had a similar type of real estate portfolio to someone who they clearly understand exactly what I'm going through because they're going through it themselves. And further, there are people within their firm that they can lean on when we get into those complicated US-based issues. We'll loop in that other tax partner that's a specialist on that area. But if you're just getting started, you're just trying to offset a $60,000 salary, probably any accountant that's dealt with some rental property type depreciation, capital cost allowance, and some basic, rental property deductions, that'd probably be someone who could help you. I would say someone who's an accountant that hasn't done a lot of real estate stuff, maybe not the best fit. So find someone who's obviously got experience, ask them the type of clients that they have, type of experience that they've been working with. And then there's also a gray area too, right? Like there's a saying that, I think it's pigs go to market and hogs get slaughtered in the tax world. So there's a gray area of how far you can push the envelope before you get slaughtered. How far is too greedy? So as an example, you might write off, it depends on the depreciation rate you use, or it depends on, there's so many different factors, but let's say you might write off like 40% of your car. And that might be a lot because let's say you only use 20% of your car for your rental properties. They might be able to push a little more, like push 50-60% of your cell phone plan against your rental properties, or whereas maybe another accountant might say 25%. And that's a judgment call based on what they can defend. And by defending, I mean like, do you have a logbook for how many times you go to properties, and do you track when you're going and the gas usage for that and the insurance, et cetera, and so forth? Because there's a percentage of the mileage for the year that you can allocate. And so some of it comes down to your own personal tracking and then your own comfort level on how far do you want to go, right? Sometimes, like I've had issues where I lost certain receipts or things happened where it wasn't exactly clear on the books, and I sometimes just didn't even bother writing it off because I'm worried if I get audited, how am I going to explain this, right? So that's a big piece of it too, is finding out, what are you comfortable with in claiming? But definitely let's say you had a property that you just bought and you did a huge renovation on it. It's very likely that you have a mortgage payment, property taxes, utilities, insurance, maintenance, etc., and so forth, whatever other fees, rental license fees, etc., and so forth, that you're gonna have to deal with. Those are all ongoing operating expenses that can be claimed in this year. Now, if you were vacant the whole year, or let's say you had like 1 month of a tenant and then you kicked them out, so you had like 1 month of rent and the other 11 months were vacant while you're renovating this property, you likely had huge operating losses on that property because the property wasn't generating a lot of income and it was burning a hole in your pocket. They were costs associated. And so you might also look at your renovation budget and say, hey, I spent whatever, 50 grand renovating this house. But maybe some of it was more maintenance items. So let's say you did the eaves troughs where there was fascia board that was leaking and it was all rotted. That's a maintenance item. That's not really improving the value of the home. That's just maintaining it. Or let's say the windows were all leaking and you caulked all the windows. You had a guy do that for a day. That was $500. That's a maintenance item. That's not a CapEx item. And so you got to sort it into what's capital expenditure in nature that's going to add value to this property. That's more of a thing you're going to depreciate over a longer term. And what can you write off 100% this year? So you just gotta kind of go through each of your line items in your renovation budget and say, hey, this makes sense to be here or there. And the accountant will help you do that. Hopefully they'll do that for you. And they'll help you decide, what you can write off. But it's hard with one rental property to offset an entire $60,000 a year salary unless it was a huge operating loss on that property. It's possible. I think in my third year, I was making $60,000 a year salary actually before I quit. And I offset almost all of my day job income I had, I think, 6 or 7 rental properties that were all under major renovations. I just gotten the tenants out, and it kind of worked out from a tax perspective. There were partial years where I'd owned the property, and so there was actually huge offsets, and I almost paid no tax on my day job because I got to defer a lot of that. Now, when I go to sell, there are obviously going to be some, if I, let's say, assume you took some of that, what's the word I want to use? The capital cost allowance, the big renovation that you're, that's CapEx in nature, and you depreciated some of that, you're gonna have to recapture that on sale. So if you don't plan to sell for 50 years, it's a non-issue. You're basically getting a tax-free loan of the deferred tax for 50 years, and so it ends up being almost nothing with the time value of money. So yeah, I'm gonna go up and try catching these questions because they're just flying out here. And I'm missing most of the conversation, but I will get down to the comments at the bottom and try to catch up with those as soon as I get through these ones at the top. Happy New Year, Burkhead. William Burkhead's always jumping in. I appreciate you on the stream. Hey, Mike, thank you for great content and mentorship. Happy New Year. Thank you, Harpreet. Appreciate it. Andrew says, I love selling put options. Yeah, so selling put options is fantastic, right? It's a safer way to invest when you're selling put options because then the worst case scenario is you end up buying the shares at the end of the time that you would have wanted to buy anyway. So if you're selling put options on companies that you like, that produce healthy dividends, that are long-term blue chip solid companies, then you get paid to buy. Let's say a share is trading at $50 and there's a premium right now where you can get paid like $4 a share for an option a year from now to buy the shares at this price, right? It's a set price. You may end up getting $4 off for free, which is pretty sweet to get paid to sell options contracts. So you can go buy the shares if you wanted to and then sell a put option on it, and then worst case scenario, you have the shares to sell at the end of the day. So you can use options to really enhance your overall investing strategy and reduce your overall risk if you're smart about it. Obviously, there's people who get into some of the crazy call options where they're putting themselves into huge levered margin positions that end up getting called and they end up getting burned huge because they were speculating. And I'm not a speculator, I'm an investor, and there's a difference, I think. Calculated risk and realizing that gambling is not investing, in my opinion. That's taking huge risk. That's like putting it all in Bitcoin and hoping for the best with no fundamental analysis at all and just a bunch of rah-rah friends who are like all about it and there's no analysis at all. And technical analysis by in and of itself is not good enough to trade on, in my opinion. I'm a value investor. I bought my first house a couple of years ago and that equity is no joke. Good for you, man. That's awesome. At 22 to have $78,000 set aside. That's awesome. That's exactly kind of where I was. I was a little bit further along than that, but similar to the position that I was in, right? At that time, bought a house early at 19, and so I'd created equity, and I was saving aggressively and working, and it's doable. You could be on the track and be a multi-millionaire, in the next 5 years. If you just stay the course. What is the process for going after tenants for damages to a property? I just went through that this week. If you were following my Instagram stories, you would see exactly that I've had 2 units, actually I had 4 units that turned over in the last 30 days that had major, like $1,000 at least in furniture left behind and garbage, bugs, issues, damage, etc. so forth. The tenants often leave places in bad condition. Student properties even more so, especially during COVID. It's been really bad. I've found as of recent. But what do you do after them? So first thing you do is just try to reach out to them and have reasonable conversation and say, hey, I'm going to take legal action. Let's figure out a solution here where you return the unit in the same condition that you got it, which is the goal. A tenant should leave a unit in the same condition that they got it. That almost never happens. That's like less than half the time that happens. When it does happen, you're like, woo! That happens to me too. A few times this year, I can think of situations where the unit was actually better than I gave it to them. I gave it to them, and they put like nice art on the walls and everything. And it looked, actually, when they moved out, they left the art behind, and it looked better than when I gave them the unit. So that happens occasionally. Or you'll give them a unit that's just been freshly renovated, maybe there's some dust, and they even clean it. And so it comes back to you cleaner than you gave it to them. And that's a win. In that case, you give them a move-out bonus. You call them and say, hey, you did a great job moving out on this property. Everything is fantastic. Like, here's $100 or whatever. You give them some sort of incentive before they move out, some target to hit, and that'll help as well. So I often will call units and say, hey, or I don't do any of that myself anymore, but I'll recommend my manager will call out and say, hey, can we offer you some sort of move-out bonus if the unit meets a certain checklist on the move-out inspection? And that's incentive for the tenant to not want to leave garbage behind, to not want it, right? Because they need an incentive. People need to be incentivized to do things, and there's not a lot of punitive that you can do. There's not a lot of punishment for tenants. They really can do whatever they want. Not paying rent, as an example, is the only legal theft in Canada. It's the only thing you can steal legally. They won't land you in jail. So you go steal food, you're starving. You steal food from the grocery store, you end up in jail. You go steal rent? Nope. Landlord-tenant board issue. We'll see in 2 years at a tribunal, and they're like, it's fine. So yeah. Thanks, Joe. Respect. Thanks, appreciate that. I've been working really hard, and the 75 Hard Challenge requires you to take a selfie a day. So I've been trying to do that and using Instagram as the portal to take the selfie. But yeah. Also, can you talk about preparing a property for appraisal and what you do to get the highest appraisal possible? So Ace of Spades, to kind of give you the lay down on that, I would say, how do you go after tenants? So let's say you can go through the landlord-tenant board. You can file something there for damages and unpaid rent. There is a mechanism to go through that now. With landlord-tenant board, but it's shut down because of COVID, and there are some online hearings happening, but we're talking like a year, so it's not even worth it at that point. Small claims court is another option, which I've seen landlords go down the rabbit hole and eventually get a win and make some money and then garnish wages. So it's possible to do it. Sorry, my phone's almost dead. I've been out literally all day. I got home and did the Wisewell stream. I was walking around showing with mentees. We're looking at some of my properties and discussing things. So sorry if my phone dies. The battery is very, very low. So I don't know if we'll get a full stream out of this 28% battery that I have. I am plugged in, but this darn Apple chargers suck. Like, they keep cutting in and out. It'll connect, not connect. I got the wrong charger, but it's got like a 10-foot cord, and this is the only 10-foot cord that I have. So, sad life. Sad life, guys. I'll try my best to get through some rapid fire questions here. Let's see if I can do better. So appraisal, I guess I'll end the last part of that question with, I've covered that question like a dozen times, probably over the last 3 years on this channel. There's actually a video I did on that. Go back to one of my first videos ever called How to Get a Rockstar Appraisal. It walks through some of the key pieces that I brought into an appraisal, but one of them also is just a comps report and a net operating income report. Do the work, give them a nice little 2-pager and a little, little binder thing, give it to them, and then just talk about all the great things you've done to your property and make them aware, because they don't know that you put insulation in the attic. They don't know that you replaced the wiring. They don't know all the stuff they can't see. Tell them all that so they can adjust the value of the property towards the best possible comparable. In most cases, it's comparable unless it's large multifamily, in which case they're using comparable net operating incomes. And so then it's all about what are your income and what's your expenses. There you go, sold a car, cool. D How To, how you doing? Good to see you on. Do I have Twitter? No, I never got on the Twitter bandwagon. I just couldn't get behind it myself. Mike, been down the options trading path before. Instead of this, why not consider creating a synthetic shares? Buy, call, sell, strike, same price, and capture spread between asset appreciation and I missed the rest of the question. Interest costs from the Black Shoes model. I think you're talking about Black Scholes. Maybe. Okay, so you could do that. It's true. You could totally You play that. There are guys that do that consistently and make 1% a month. So you can make a 12% annual return doing just that. So yeah, you could definitely do that. And I'll talk more about that with specific videos once I've completed all of my education training. So I'm fresh and I'm sharp and I've got a good strategy honed out. And I'm going to basically show you guys what I'm doing as I go through it. So you can follow along. D how to, all the best in 2021. Thank you. Any advice for what to do after university? Chase your passion. Like whatever it is that you like doing, do that. And hopefully find a way to monetize doing that. You'll make the most money chasing whatever you like. Need to work on my social media. Instagram's my favorite, to be honest. My favorite place to post and to engage. Mike, you're American. Why or how did you end up in London? Just curious. So, Joe, I'm actually Canadian and I live in Canada, in London, Ontario, Canada. London, Canada, not London, UK. Sergey, hello. Roblox and Morris says, just sold a piece of land I got cheap, did owner financing for 15 years at 5%, tips and advice. I'm not sure why you'd provide owner financing at 5%. If at ever possible, you can cash out and pull out all that cash and put it to work at 10, 15%, 20% or more. That's the ideal, right? Now you've got, if you provide the financing, then I assume, you said you just sold it, so assume you provide the financing. That's going to be a tricky one because you're stuck with a 5% return. At least maybe you sold it for top. Hopefully you sold it for more than you think it's worth, in which case maybe that negates the lower interest rate that you're going to be stuck with for the next 15 years, I guess. I wouldn't agree to those kind of terms. That's just me. But I think cash is king, and I prefer not to be financing at such cheap rates, especially when we have inflationary concerns in the times coming up here. Love all your stuff. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that, Joe. William says, Mike, I want to thank you. I had a goal of reading 25 books. I thought it was impossible. Found out our library has free audiobooks. I'm halfway through. A Man for All Markets. Absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend. Cool. If I have some time between the 3 kids screaming and the dog and the ventees and everything else I got going on in life, I will try to read more books this year. It's on my goal list. With 75 hours, I'm doing at least 10 pages a day. So that's, over the 75 days, I should get 750 pages read at least. So that's something. I got a couple of books read. Tom says, I've been hitting refresh on your YouTube homepage. Time do you start the show? At 7:15, Tom said. So what time do I start the show? Well, you're actually in the show. Typically I start around 7, but I think today it was like 7:06. I often get a 5-minute lag. Like today I got home and I had some dinner and I was like, spent 2 minutes with my kids and then was like, oh geez, it's almost the Wise Wall show. It's like 7:02. So I ran downstairs and turned my phone on. So yeah, I'm a little late tonight, but I try between 7 and 7:10 to go live. I've never missed a stream, so you'll always see me on every single week, no matter what. I'm on sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock, sometimes after 8 to 8:30 even. Sometimes I'll go if we have a long stream. It just kind of depends. So yeah, Canada's great. Thanks for the comments there. I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of living in Canada. I love it. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else more than 5 months a year. I think I'll always stay a Canadian citizen, but I can imagine being in Costa Rica or some beautiful place for 4 or 5 months a year during the winter. Definitely. It's a little cold here in Canada. It's nice for the first month or two, and then you're like, okay, I'm over it. Next question. When you offer a tenant cash for keys, what vocabulary do you use when actually speaking to the tenant? Need help with the soft skills? So whenever you're having a conversation with anyone, and like for the people who are tenants watching this, like when you're having the same conversation with the landlord and you're trying to get something done, like let's say you want to move out and you want to negotiate some sort of move out bonus, in the same way you want to appeal to the person. So mirroring is a good example to start. Are they a fast speaker? Pick up the pace of and the tone of your voice to match theirs. If they're a slow speaker, speak slowly. If they speak deep and slowly, you speak in the same manner, deep and slow. Slow it down to the same pace as they're on. They'll immediately in their brain recognize that you're like them, and that'll help them to like you better, and they'll be more willing to receive any of your ideas. So that's one of the things. The other is good eye contact. That's a soft skill that you can't beat the rapport that you can build by having a connection with someone. Like there's just something there that, I've had tenants say, I just like you. Like I didn't like the last guy, I didn't want to deal with them, but I like you. And so that's part of it. It's a feeling, right? So I think that's a piece of have that conversation. But at the end of the day, when you're looking to have this conversation with a tenant about moving out, you need to get on their wavelength. Think from where they're thinking from. They probably don't want to move. Like their house, they've probably been there for a while. They probably want to stay. And so you have to work with them and say, what would incentivize them to want to go? And so maybe if you made the move easy for them, if you covered and paid for movers to move all of their stuff, if you help them find an apartment, you might go and they might not know how to use the internet. I've had tenants that don't know how to use Kijiji or Facebook, and you help them, hey, I'll send you 10 amazing listings that are better than my place now. So if you're looking for more space, that's a good one. Often I had a tenant that was looking to have kids, so they're expanding in that way. That's exactly what you're looking for. Someone who's, find out what they're looking for. If they want to expand their family, let's say it's a boyfriend and girlfriend and they want to have kids, they want to move out of your one bedroom and they want to get into a house. Maybe there's a way you can help them do that, right? You could fund the difference in their rent for the first couple of months or something to that effect, right? Give them a pile of cash. If they're looking to buy a house, is there a way you can help them get into a home? Maybe rent to own. I've had all these situations work to a mutual common ground. That's really what you're trying to find, is how could it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, and the tenant doesn't want to leave, and they won't take a crazy amount of cash, there are other ways, right? Obviously, you could explore. Like maybe it makes sense to demolish a unit or transform it in a way that's not the same as those before. Combine two units together. So instead of 200 apartments, have one 3-bedroom apartment, and you get a permit and you can evict them that way. But that's like, you don't want to go down that path. It's a lot better to have a mutual understanding and say, hey, this is what I want to do with the property. Can you help? Can we get on a situation or get on the same wavelength so that we can agree that you'll leave willingly? And that's what you want. You want them to leave willingly. So start just having a conversation. They may just want to move next year, right? And then maybe you can incentivize them to move sooner, something like that. So just, that's how you do it. And you don't always have success, but quite often you do. Quite often you do. Especially if they haven't been there their whole lives, then they're probably expecting to move at some point in their life. Most people don't stay in a rental property forever. They want to get out and get a bigger place or get their own house. Like, it's not usually a forever house for most people. So yeah, depends on the type of property you're buying, I guess. If you're buying like a nice big single family, then it might make more sense to, I don't know why you'd be buying that as a rental property, to be honest, but if you are, you're probably going to move into it. So then you can just move into it and evict them that way. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of different strategies you can use, but at the end of the day, it's about finding a common ground and working with the tenant. You don't want to be pushing people out, right? That's not a good long-term strategy. You want to have a good overall brand in the marketplace, and I think pushing people out isn't a good way to do it. It's good to find a common ground where everyone can agree, hey, hey, I'm leaving willingly. That's what you want. Also, your place won't get trashed that way. Hey, Mike, Happy New Year. Just wanted to get thoughts on some industries that you're investing in and industries you see growing exponentially within the next 3 to 5 years. Thanks. So industries that I think are going to grow in the next 3 to 5 years. I think tourism is one that's got a lot of pent-up demand right now. So in the next couple of years, we're going to see a huge pickup in that industry. I think a lot of the tech spaces, like we've seen an acceleration on the technology adoption curve where, there's so many more people shopping online on Amazon as an example, or just online in general than they were before. So that's a big one. I think digital cryptocurrencies backed by the government. So I don't like cryptos like Bitcoin. I think that, Bitcoin's a dime a dozen. There'll be 10 other Bitcoins with better tech in the next 25 years. Someone else is going to make something better, and they're going to have just as much computing power, and all it takes is public perception to change, and all of a sudden, boom, the next Ethereum or whatever, pick a different altcoin will become the standard. But we just saw, I actually posted on my story today, China has China Coin. It's their own crypto backed by the government. It operates in the exact same way as most other cryptos, except the illegal element isn't there. So the government can obviously track things probably with it, right? So I think they'll have a Canada coin and a US coin. We're going to move away from a paper fiat currency at some point, and we're going to move away from the petrodollar. We were on the gold standard before, right? So every dollar was backed by gold, and then we moved to a petra dollar, right? Where basically the US sold, so oil from Iraq and all that only sold in USD, so every country had to buy US dollars, so they were like the standard. That's going away. They're printing so much money now that I think fiat currencies will eventually devalue and destabilize, and it makes sense to want to shift towards digital currency anyway. Government doesn't want you to be operating in cash. They want control to turn your money off and on. If you're a terrorist or you're a criminal, boom, they can shut your money off. Done. That's it. You have no way to spend. So that's a great, like they want the crypto. It's more efficient. Like physical cash is really tough for the government to manage, collect bills and print them. I think it's a lot easier to just have a digital currency that they could control. So I think we're moving towards a digital currency. Digital currencies, I don't know if it would make sense if all the central banks from all the major, G20 countries got together and said, we're gonna have one, all the central banks are gonna back one global crypto digital currency, and that would save a lot in foreign exchange. There'd just be so much synergy involved with that. So I think that's coming at some point. But yeah, I mean, to get away from our current currency system is going to take some time, and it's going to take some pressure. And they need things like COVID to help push. I'm not saying that COVID was created, although COVID was created in a lab. That's a fact. I am saying it was created. The got out was obviously a mistake. I don't know. And maybe they're blowing it up a little bit. Maybe it's not as bad as we think for people who are not going to die of something anyway in the next 3 years, for healthy, normal people. But anyway, I don't want to get into that rabbit hole talking about 19. I do think that we are moving towards a digital currency, and it's coming. So I'd be bullish on that sort of tech. Like, I like the tech behind Bitcoin as an example. So I would invest in blockchain tech, but I don't like the current price of Bitcoin. I think I think it's not really a good store of value. Anyone else can create something. It's not scarce. Anyone can create the next altcoin, and with better tech potentially, the next 5-10 years, what we know is that tech, the curve for fall off on tech is huge. So, oh geez, my phone's like dead. Oh, I'm below 10% battery. Stupid charger isn't connecting. I don't know why. It's plugged in, but it's got like a loose wire. Like hold it just right and twist my tongue and it might connect. I can't see if it's connected. There's no way to know, but sorry guys. I might lose the stream. You'll probably get 45 minutes out of me at least. Okay, we go back down. It just sent a warning to my phone saying, hey, like you should charge your phone today. And I didn't. If you had to invest outside of London, what areas would you consider? Do you mean like equity investments or real estate? I assumed you meant real estate because I often talk about that with you on the channel. From a real estate perspective, I'd be looking for places that cash flow very well, that have solid economic fundamentals. So I like cities and municipalities that are growing year over year. So in the last 5 years, is the growth trend positive? Is there immigration? What's the infrastructure in the city look like? Is there good infrastructure overall? Are the sewers and the water and the roads, are they all solid? And if population is growing, that's where you want to be investing in real estate. So growing population, strong economic fundamentals, good infrastructure in that city, and then ideally all those things as well as good cap rates. So good price to rent ratios. That's the important thing. So if you can line those things in the Midwest and the US, there's tons of great places you can invest and get 2% rule. There are properties that are 100 grand that rent for $2,000 a month, duplexes and stuff. So it's just some crazy returns you can get, and in some cities that are growing, that have great economic fundamentals. So there are lots of places to invest outside of London. I just happen to have a competitive advantage here in London. For the land, the down payment, paid everything I paid and all the legal fees. Monthly mortgage is just icing. I guess if it made sense, then totally awesome with your land deal that we were talking about earlier in your question that you brought up. My thought is, let's say it was 100 grand you gave them an vendor take back. You could have had that extra 100 grand in cash instead, and then invest that at like 12% and make 1,000 a month instead of investing at 5% and making $500 a month, right? So you gotta look at the opportunity cost of that, and over 15 years, that's a lot of money that you've locked in at a lower rate. But it's up to you, I guess. Okay. I don't even know what's going on in this chat. I'm so lost. I'm gonna try and read some of this chat and catch up here. There's so many questions still I didn't get to. Tax planner, accountant, barrister, you need all three. Yeah, you need a good lawyer, you need a good accountant. 2 rental properties in England. I'm an investor, all managed for me by my power team. That's awesome. Yeah. I've had ins and outs with power teams. I've had power teams that were good and then fail and then had to change it out. So I've been down that road a few times. Do you have any good REITs you could suggest? Take a REIT. I don't have any right now off the top of my head that I want to suggest. I could, when I start getting into my stock portfolio, I'll share a couple that I can't remember which REIT I'm invested in. I actually have a little holding in a small residential REIT. I can't remember. I have to check. It's publicly traded though. Good evening, Mike. Good evening, Andrew. I love the Oura Ring health tracker, official health tracker of the NBA. Oh, that's the ring you can wear. That's pretty cool. I've heard of that. It's like a Fitbit ring that tracks you. Did that one, did that question. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Metro Detroit, 55,000. Would you invest in Detroit? Myself personally, I'm not a big fan of Detroit, but there are people who are making money there. So there are opportunities in every city, but there are a lot of rough areas in Detroit. So just be careful where you're buying. It's hard to do well and make profit on the C-class type units, right? And the D-class units. My stream's gonna end. If I do end, if my stream ends, just know the secret to unlocking wealth for you is to spend less, earn more, and maximize returns. Those are the 3 levers. But I'm just gonna keep going for as long as I can until my battery dies here. No worries, Mike. Wasn't sure what time. You're a beast. Could you go over some of the important indicators you watch to see where and how the real estate market will move? I've talked about this before. If you go look on my channel, I did a live stream. I think it was like the 3 or 4 indicators for real estate market growth. It would probably be a market outlook video or something like that. Check out the market outlook videos that I did. It was a live stream actually, maybe 6 months ago, I want to say, where I talked about things. One of the things was immigration, overall like GDP economics of a city, of a region. You can look at all that data, it's all online. So that's all stuff that's important, but population growth is most correlated to growth in real estate. So if the population continues to grow, that's one of the biggest indicators for a bull market. And so look at the plan of where people are moving when they come into Canada or wherever your country is, where are they going? What cities are they going to? And then you can sort of make a plan that way. And you want to be positioned to do well for that boom. So buy in areas that are solid locations that have good cash flow. Hey Mike, just catching the stream now. Heard you talking about stock options. Get started. Looking forward to hearing your perspective. Happy to share, Eric, all my stuff coming soon. Coming soon. Can I buy commercial multifamily with no credentials? Very difficult, Jay. Very difficult. You need a little bit of experience for most banks to want to touch you, and you're gonna need some capital as well to put behind it. But I mean, it's been done. People have bought their first property as like a 10plex, and it's been done. If you're a doctor, you have like a good job, they'll probably just lend to you anyway. But it depends on so many factors, so many factors. But you find out pretty quick. I don't know what that's about. I missed some of the things. Phone charger woes, true say. Digital dollar is equally inflated as current dollars. Yeah, you know, I think that if they had a global dollar, it'd be a little bit different. So I think all of the, all the central banks will come together and back one cryptocurrency. And when they do, then it's the mash of all the nations together, right? And so that'd be a little bit different than each individual fiat currency trading like crazy between the GDPs of nations. So I think there is some change coming. Yeah. Hard assets, and I don't mean Bitcoin. That, in my opinion, is not a hard asset. It could blow in and out like the wind. Have you insulated a century-old home with a drill and fill? If so, what are your thoughts? Yep, done it from the outside and from the inside. Just fill the cavity, blow it up, fill it with insulation. It's not a big deal. If you want to lose a lot of money, S&P 500 seems like a solid bet currently. Wow, throwing shade against the S&P 500. Recently got a full-time job. How many hours do you think I should allocate on a weekly basis for real estate, deal searching, networking, blah, blah, blah? It depends. Mike, you could spend 2 hours a week efficiently, reading a couple of documents. You could spend 100 hours a week. There's no limit. It's kind of whatever fits your budget for your time. Where are the bull markets for 100K to invest in Canada? There are a lot of markets I think that are going to be poised to do well with immigration. London is one of them. It's in the top 10 for me. I don't know if it's the number 1, but I live here, so I have a geographical advantage. I have some competitive advantages. Trending products on Amazon. I don't know what that's about. I gotta wrap this stream up. Happy Money is a great book. Nepali. What Nepali is. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin? Do you own any? No, I don't own any. And my thoughts are that it's overvalued. It could go to $100,000, but it's still overvalued. It very well may go to $100,000, but I still think it's overvalued. I wrote an article on that in 2017, and though my thoughts have changed a little bit, I'm more bullish than I was in 2017 when it was 22,000 and everyone was like, it's going to the moon. And then I wrote an article and then it dropped to 5,000 in price point. I still believe that there's, you know, I just don't think there's any fundamental. There is some intrinsic value. There is some underlying hard value in it. I just think that's not enough. Like the technology is kind of cool, right? There's a huge network. There are some advantages that Bitcoin has. Like has the most, I think, nodes, the most computing power. It also has like the most miners on it and things like that. It also has the most adoption, right? Mainstream adoption. So there are some things I think that are in its favor. Mike, this is a bit of a stretch, but if you had no debt, $200,000 in the bank, working a full-time job, earning $70,000 a year, what would you do to become financially independent? Well, it depends on your goals, right? If you want to be grinding the trenches at rental properties in the evenings and the weekends, and you want to be fighting with tenants and all the other stuff, then get into rental properties. But if you don't enjoy that, then you can sit down and say, oh, maybe options trading is a better strategy for you because you're already at your desk, and on lunch you could do 2 hours focused on a little options trading strategy and take your 200 grand and make 2-3% a month. There are lots of options traders that make 2% a month, right? So that could be a target for you. You can spend the time doing that. Yeah, Jonas is right. All the stuff that Jonas said is all true. Lots of options. Get the same questions, It's very, very similar responses each and every week. Going to load out capital against real estate and consider the state of the economy. Would you wait until things stabilize before starting? Holding on to cash is probably worse, Michael. Having the opportunity cost of your money kind of degrade, no matter what, if it's sitting in cash, it's a problem. You could, if you're really worried about the currency destabilizing, you could just lend it out and then buy a hedge against the currency devaluing, against inflation. You can buy a hedge to protect yourself. So it's not like you can't do anything. You're like, oh no, just go buy a hedge and protect yourself from that happening. And if it doesn't happen, cool. Like you spend a little bit of money on some insurance to protect the value of your money you lent out. There's too many questions. I can't get through them all. Can you use Webull if you live in Canada? I'm not sure on that actually. I don't know if they have Webull in Canada. Probably. I don't know. I don't know if there's a. I know it's like. Yeah, I actually don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. I hear Graham and all those guys giving it away and getting free stocks and stuff, but I honestly don't have an account, so I have no idea. Will you offer your followers here a sneak peek for any stock hacking course you're planning on making? Tom, probably I'll give away a lot of free content on my channel. I don't plan to be making any stock hacking course right now. So yeah, I don't know. If I made something, it'd probably be on real estate. That's going to be making a course to share. That's probably where I think there's the most value. There's already some good stock hacking courses out there. Irwin's is pretty decent, I hear. Talk about your 2021 goals. We did that already. I covered that at the start and the start of last week's episode. All right, I'm at almost 50 minutes and my phone's at 1%, so it's lasted the whole stream. I can't believe it. Okay, so I think I got most of the stuff out here, but do you think living off 100K is possible? I missed this question. Minimal Main says, what do you think living off 100K is possible for Lean Fire abroad? 100K, like that's it, that's all you have? In Thailand, yeah, I think it goes pretty far when you convert to the bot. It depends on where you're living. There are places where you can use geographical arbitrage to take 100 grand, invest it at say 12%, make $1,000 a month, and $1,000 a month, if it's 100,000 USD, $1,000 a month USD can buy you a decent life in like Thailand, right? So it depends on where you want to live. If you want a geographic arbitrage, then yeah, you could theoretically retire on 100 grand. always be doing fixed terms only. Well, the thing is, a tenant automatically has the right to stay in the unit. So from month to month, man, they become tenants that you can't evict. So if you do a 1 year lease, after the end of the 1 year, they can just stay indefinitely. There is no like term and then they have to leave. That isn't how it works. The lease literally only protects the tenant. There's nothing. It doesn't really help either. Honestly, the lease does not even really matter. Tenant can just stay month to month and you can evict them. All right, I think I got through all the questions. My phone's still alive. Wow, it didn't die yet. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week on the Mike Rosehart Show. And follow me on Instagram at Mike Rosehart. Give me a follow on there, and I'll see you in my stories. And maybe if you slide in my DMs, I might even respond. All right, everyone, have a good one. Spend less, earn more, and maximize your returns. I gotta go, guys. There's too many questions. Can't get